All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. I love how everybody in the comments is like, you guys are late. I get text messages, emails. Okay, so we got a couple special guests here today. Let's go ahead and introduce you guys. We'll start to the right of me, the gentleman that's glowing red in the stratosphere. Sigma.
Yeah, what's up? Hi. How's it going?
This is Sigma, ladies and gentlemen.
I've been here a couple times, I think.
Yeah, this is not his first rodeo or stream. And we have someone special at the bottom. Aletheia, I believe it's pronounced.
Yes, you are correct. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening indeed. Cheers.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had a couple very interesting conversations over the last week or so. Where do you guys want to start with all this? There's so much going on in the world today.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I think typically I just look at the comments, let it lead or let you lead.
Well, I've kind of an interesting thing. There's been a lot of drama on YouTube specifically between a bunch of channels going back and forth. And, drama is just divisive and, there's no point in, dividing people. Like right now we need to stick together, right? Regardless of beliefs. As long as we have the same general beliefs, I think we can, what's up, Swamp Dog? What's up, Opie? What's up, John D? Jaundice. I think we can all stick together. So there's been a lot of drama about people's different opinions on what to do with the impending regulations from the ATF, right? Don't write them a letter. Don't submit a comment. Comply, don't comply, hide in your house. All sorts of different things. So I'm just kind of curious where you guys stand. And Sigma, you brought something kind of interesting up that I think is worth being shared as well.
Well, I mean, I got a straight up fucking plan of action. If anybody wants to fucking break out your notes or start recording your screen, call up, your SAC or whoever you need to talk to. So here we are, ladies, gents, and animals. I have ourselves a bona fide plan. So we've got an ATF that's pretty abusive, has a history of misbehavior, and we need to communicate this. And we also need to protest their trampling over our civil rights. So what I propose is hold on, I'm reading this comment. Don't write a letter appeal. No. We ain't gonna be doing nothing like that. I know everybody's written so many fucking letters. It's cancer for the eyes. What I'm thinking is it's summertime. Lockdowns are being lifted slowly as we come out of a shitty fucking year and a half we just had. And we have a barbecue. And we do it from a truck. Hot dogs, hamburgers, mustard, ketchup, whatever's your poison. And you do it near the local ATF office. And you do it often. And every time you do this, you invite the public to come in, week 2 heads up notice, and have a couple people speak while the barbecue's going on in the public forum. And you remind everybody of what they do. You don't get overbearing, but you don't sit there and judge harshly too much, because what you're wanting to do is you just want to tell the story of Ruby Ridge, Waco, and really this guy named Chipman, who might be their director, if he hadn't already become their director. This guy gets onto Reddit, does an AMA. And I don't know, do you have the link handy, Dark? Because you might want to give the the people in the chat the link, because he did an AMA where he claims 2 helicopters were shot down during the Waco siege. And, I've always kind of paid attention to Waco. I acquainted myself with the story and the siege, and I know that some officers were killed trying to serve them with some sort of action, which I thought was overkill. 1,000 different ways to do that. They burned the whole place down, destroyed the evidence afterwards, and they certainly seem to have done something terrible and then wanted to cover it up. And I think you need to have a couple volunteers be willing to speak in front of the people at the barbecue and remind them of what the ATF did. And the big deal about this is you need to broaden the scope. You need to invite locals to the thing. You need to go to coffee shops. You need to go to your favorite bar, your favorite restaurants, whatever you can, social clubs, church. Get people to come out and do this. And really, I think honestly, it probably should be best done on the anniversary of maybe Ruby Ridge. But really what I was envisioning is since it is summer, doing this every week or two, and just have a little freedom event, have some flags there, some patriotism, some good times, and really remind everyone that cares to listen that the ATF ultimately seems to be about curtailing the Second Amendment. And we live in a time where our civil rights are being challenged. We live in a time where people are trying to crank up racial tensions. We live in a time where we got Beijing Biden in there, and it certainly seems like he's sold out. And he's got his little groups of guys like Chipman in there, who I will bring up a picture of Chipman.
I actually just found one, his profile page.
Well,
Absolutely
I've got him
beautiful.
also. I believe this is Chipman after the Waco siege, where he is posing heroically near the burning remains of something in Central Texas. And during his hearing, when he was talking to Ted Cruz, he said, "Oh, I have fond memories of my last time in Central Texas," which I believe was a reference to what happened at Waco. And that is a problem. This guy is not cool. He is overzealous, unprofessional, and seems to relish the murder of dozens of children. I can't remember the exact number, but I mean, it was quite a few. It was all of David Koresh's kids. They burned the whole place down.
Yeah, it was women and children, both.
Yeah, but I mean, let's just, we live in a weird times. Nobody even pays attention to women anymore. You're not even sure if it is a woman anymore. But no, you need to draw attention to this, and you need to broaden the net, and you need to become relatable. People like you, Dark, and like Pacone, and like many others. I wish we had Pacone in here for this, because this needs to get out to thousands of people. This is my little idea I came up with one day, and I don't care. You guys call it your own. Please fucking do this, because sorry about the word. Anyway, please do this. This is a big deal. This is the best. This is hearts and minds. You need to reach out there. You need to start making yourself relatable. People are starving for human contact. They're starving for something to believe in, something comforting. And what's more comforting than a barbecue on an afternoon and maybe a good cause to pay attention to? And I know that guns are unpopular and there's lots of propaganda around it, but this might be an opportunity to be in the public site, offered people free food, barbecue out in the open in your local city. And don't even protest at an ATF headquarters. Just protest downtown and say, hey, this is a anti-ATF protest. Let's have a few hot dogs and a few, hamburgers and offer to the public. It's worth, I think, a little pooling a bunch of money between you and a dozen of your friends. If you can summon them all together, all the people at the gun shop, all the people at the gun store, and throw in a barbecue. I know you survivalists out there can make a fucking, sorry, I'm trying to not drop as many F-bombs because it's just uncouth. Anyway, I know you survivalists out there can make a hot dog. Go out there and make a hot dog, talk to people, ask them about their life, be interested because they're your fellow citizens, and remind them that we have federal agencies completely willing to, on U.S. soil in a time of peace, murder people over weapons like this. This is a big problem. And the ATF agents out there, I think maybe saying murder might be too strong of a word, but I really, that's kind of what it is. I can't really put it any more diplomatically. I think this was completely unprofessional activity out of the ATF. I think this is extremely heavy-handed. I think that they relished the fact that they knew the American people would not overreact to this, and they knew that they could get away with it. And this guy, Chipman, is disgusting. He is absolutely runaway disgusting. That is awful. The fact that he relishes his time in Central Texas, that time he killed women and children during a raid. And look, if he had done his job and done the same stuff and remained a little bit humble about it, I could have respected that. He was doing a job. He wasn't in command. Shit happened. And you know, as time went on, he regretted the deaths of all of those women and children, his fellow citizens, who ostensibly he's supposed to be protecting as a federal agent, except he didn't. And here we are at his hearing, and he is gloating about it, mocking Ted Cruz from Texas, knowing that his people are listening to this and figuring he could just sit there and flex on him. Absolutely disgusting behavior. I wonder when we're going to have an NKVD swallowing people up, and I'm going to have an American Alexander Solzhenitsyn out here writing about the gulags that Biden's going to put down, or maybe his counterparts years hence, to fucking contain people they don't like for thought crimes. So the best way to counter this is to make yourself relatable. Barbecues, good times, flags, little bit of talk, like organize a little thing where you explain what happened, when it happened, why Ruby Ridge was so horrible, why Waco was not a good thing, and really seal the deal with Chipman. Because guess what? He is the icing on the cake. It isn't just 25 years ago. It is now brought up again because we had a guy that was present there talk to a senator, Ted Cruz, and point out, mock him gleefully, mocking him and saying, I remember my time in Central Texas. Oh, we had so much fun making sure all those children burned alive at a compound in Waco. That is awful. Awful. Absolutely irreprehensible, disgusting behavior. And it absolutely needs to be discussed often and with context outside of the normal gun rights community. That's why you need to go to your Starbuckses, talk to people on the street as they pass by, offer them a hot dog and a flyer explaining this. Now, I'd love to cook all this up. Maybe we can. But I figure some of y'all enterprising people out there might want to do something. Well, here you have it. A little bit of activity. And it's kind of fun, too, because guess what? We're not in a war zone yet. We might just be able to pull this thing out of the nosedive it's in if we can all start to talk to one another. Because guess what? The last year of COVID was all about dividing people and preventing them from talking to each other. That was all of what it was. So get out there and give somebody a hot dog and a hamburger and talk about these people at the ATF and this man Chipman and his Reddit AMA. And those links, I think we can put them in the description so people can look at that AMA, perhaps understand that Mr. Chipman is embellishing how violent Waco was, because he's obviously exaggerating it in an attempt to make it more appropriate that those children and women and really innocent men too. I think if he had arrested Koresh when Koresh had to go fill up the truck at the gas station, they might have been able to do that, but they didn't. And they decided to have a siege to justify their budget, and they shit the bed and they had to cover it up. And that is got to be. And the fact that he sits there in front of Ted Cruz is, I remember fondly my time in Central Texas. Absolutely horrible. And the thing that the feds do not like is bad publicity. They spend oodles of money promoting TV shows, movies, and media to make themselves look competent. Well, guess what, guys? You have got a bright red incompetency, unprofessional, an incompetent, unprofessional right there to talk about. This Chipman guy and what he did, where he was, and his joke to Ted Cruz, and the disdain in which this organization views the legislature and our Constitution. Because not only do they want to take your Second Amendment, they really don't respect who you voted for. And here we are riding on the heels of an election. Pretty much everybody everybody I know that's in the game knows it's stolen. Just nobody really wants to, admit it. I guess we're all pussies. I guess I should be putting my face out there and my name out there, but frankly, I'm just a guy with a bunch of ideas. I ultimately hope, Dark, you and the people like you out there that are less anonymous and the listeners out there might amplify a good idea and make it something that might change our condition. Because really, this one's worth it. And I know there's some infighting and, the various skullduggery and egoistic things that go on with any type of entertainment array of people entertaining people. But, put that aside and focus on something that could get something done this summer. Because here we are. Everything's opening right back up. Hot dogs and hamburgers are going to go a long way, and a lot of talking and a lot of flyers in the hands, and not just walking up to somebody and just giving them a flyer, but they've had a hot dog with you. They've enjoyed the wonderful weather, the beauty of the outdoors and our cities. And we really need to get out there and talk while we still can, because these people ultimately want you silent. They want you alone, isolated, and they want you to shut up and be paranoid and be unapproachable. Like, really, jeans, t-shirt, American flags. Have a good time. And I'm going to shut up. I know I've been on a sermon here. But yes.
Nah, so I just want to add to basically everything that you've been saying. I think that's an excellent idea. Like when you emphasize at the end, basically jeans and t-shirts all you need, because at the end of the day, there are multiple types of protests, right? So there's there's the peaceful protest. And honestly, if you were to show up at, let's say, to protest and you have all these firearms and everything, yeah, at the end of the day, if nothing happens, that's still, a peaceful protest. But just from an optics perspective, and, optics is everything. And the thing that I hate the most is the fact that we have all this infighting within, the community. And we are still at the same time, we are still on the same side. And I mean, if you were to look at other organizations, the other side of the political spectrum, BLM and Antifa, I hate to say it, but the right really needs to get its shit together, or we're not going to have a country in the next, 20 years, because there's so many different sides that are, we're all trying to fight for the same thing, but we let our differences get a hold of us and drag us down a path that we do not even need to go towards. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think, I think an interactive protest with, talking to people on the opposite side would be the best option. Because, I mean, think about it this way, right? If you were to show up at, Congress and you're waving flags and, you got the little signs up that says, don't pass this bill, it's really not going to do anything. I'm sorry, but it's really not.
Hey, can I jump in here? I'm looking at the comments, and Heath said something which needs to be highlighted. And the reason they put Chipman in was for this reaction, and thankfully they did. The appropriate way to make them pay for that mistake, Heath L., is to highlight what Chipman exaggerated, what was inappropriate about his joke, and absolutely callously vicious. I mean, if the BLM people ever give you shit for being downtown and having hot dogs and flags, tell them about your maniac cop who slaughtered all of those children, burning them alive in Texas, and just offer them some hamburgers and hot dogs and say, hey, wouldn't you want to, keep your Second Amendment when there's a bunch of mad dogs like these animals running around? Because that's exactly what they gave us on a platter. We just need to exploit it. I mean, so they made a massive mistake if that was intentional, Heath.
I would say, just like they're saying, don't roll up and, plate carriers with your long gun. That doesn't, that's the message that they're saying. That doesn't mean not to carry a firearm, right? It's a difference of optics. And, you guys mentioned like the drama and the infighting and shit like that, and I think it's important to get people with different perspectives and different ideas out there to have these conversations. And a lot of people, when the hearing first happened, they were having conversations about Chipman, and they haven't really seen shit else about it. And this is someone that's coming in to take over an NGO. Their job is to interpret and enforce laws that they're readily available just to change at will.
Hey, just for clarification, the ATF is a government organization.
They're a non-governmental organization.
What now? This is news to me. I mean, I consider myself somewhat aware of this, but I hear this, and that's a hell of a thing to say. I haven't seen any proof of that yet.
It's crazy. They're literally a company. That's all it is. It's a company.
Shit. Well, you're blowing my mind. All I know is this guy's a piece of shit, and somehow they let the people with the letters ATF carry guns and walk around acting like police. Now, I don't know how that works. And just focus on talk about what a psychopath Chipman is. I don't know about all this other transcendent talk about what's a company, what is it. Most people appreciate the ATF as at least a de facto government agency. They're having hearings about appointing the man. He's acting like a fucking asshole, talking about how he had a great time in Central Texas killing children and other American citizens who are adult and male and female. Okay, it's very simple. There's no need to metastasize this into some esoteric discussion of what is or isn't. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's still some type of quasi-governmental agency, Treasury Department. Yeah, it's a government agency. Why are we sitting here calling a private company? Because we're wrong about that. And you go out to hand somebody a hot dog or a hamburger, and you're saying this is a private company, and you're wrong about that. And in the course of their review of those facts, they determined, well, Jesus, this fucking idiot that I met downtown that gave me a hot dog said that this is he's making me look like an idiot. And
well, here's
don't even go there. Don't even go there unless you are 150% true on that. You don't fuck with it. Keep it simple. We're not rocket scientists here.
They are not Congress. They cannot legislate.
Guess what? That doesn't make them a company, though. The FBI is a government agency. Do we agree on that at least?
Okay, I was being
well, do not fuck it up, because that's a big fuck up. Because if you are the random latte sipping idiot, I know, no, I'm calm. I'm just trying to drive this home. I'm 120% calm. Okay.
Well,
I raised my voice.
A fucking idiot on my stream. So.
Well, you aren't actually a fucking idiot, Dark. I'm saying this is a big fuck up because we cannot have that type of confusion involved in this. It makes us all look like morons.
What I meant is they're not allowed to legislate. They cannot create law. What they do is their job is to enforce law. And
that's a government entity. That's not a private company.
Okay, so I thought they were a non-governmental
that's a huge
organization.
No.
Okay,
it's a governmental organization. Don't call them otherwise.
If they were, and this is where my logic was coming from, because I thought they were a non-governmental organization. If they were, that would mean they were something along the lines of 501c3, which would mean they were literally just a company.
And then guess what? If we were wrong about that and we tried to tell someone about our grievances and they saw that mistake, well, they would conclude that we're morons and maybe we don't need to have weapons because we might shoot ourselves with further incompetence. We need to be very certain we do not fuck up on major issues like that, because we only have one chance with that latte sipping fellow citizen of ours who is swimming in propaganda. It's important.
What I was saying, I understand what you're saying. What I was saying was in jest to take away from the fact that everyone looks at them as if they can literally just write law. They cannot write law. And I was trying to discredit them as an organization. And I obviously was.
You're just defining them accurately. They can't legislate. They got reprimanded for trying to with one of their little policy papers because they waffle on things. But they are a government organization. They're a law enforcement organization, and we need to talk about their personnel and their policies and their behavior because it's all awful. That's demonstrably true. We do not need to have esoteric conversations of, well, is it a private entity or not? Because there's a lot of people out there that will waste all of your time trying to tell you the United States is a corporation that's owned by the crown or something. And I can't go there. It's something unrelatable.
Yeah,
we have to talk about these guys being maniacs, because that's what they are.
I wasn't trying to get in the whole semantics and this is that, and there's a period and a comma. And
well, now the reason I raised my voice is I'm not truly angry at you, Dark, but this is something I keep hearing from other places, and it just grates on my nerves, because I'm like, this is the type of shit that makes us all look like we're huffing glue. And when we're in the gun rights community, because there's only one pass at this, and people are cruel judges of strangers. That is the entire intent of serving hot dogs and hamburgers to people downtown, is to get them to learn who you are. The fact that you have families, the fact that you breathe, you share the same air, and you're human beings. And that is extremely, absolutely existentially important for your rights right now, because they are absolutely in the business of dehumanizing you so they can hurt you. Okay, they need to get the requisite mental image into the population to where they either dissociate from you and won't care if you're screaming and crying and bleeding somewhere. This is why your listeners are so important. We are not important. The listeners, the people, if 100 people would do this throughout the country, and organize just a handful of their friends to serve hot dogs and hamburgers to people downtown, and just keep doing it. Yes, right, John Rice, hearts and minds. It's absolutely that type of situation. And we are not in a conflict zone. No one is likely, if 100 people did this right now, 100 people are going to go home that night and go to bed and be totally fine. We are in what some people have defined a low intensity conflict, which is, it can be violent, but it's sometimes not. It's mentally violent. People will scowl at you, say mean things to you. And it's important to, just offer them a hot dog. And if they don't want it, if they act like an idiot, just be like, all right, well, don't have a hot dog then, and offer it to somebody else and try to continue to have a good time. If they go too crazy, film them, and don't be an ass about it. But do what you got to do. And Dark, I didn't mean to call you a fucking idiot. I meant that in just way it makes us look, because I revert to what other people are going to perceive when you think about things like this. And we must communicate with people who do not share our passion for these issues. And I lost myself there. I apologize.
Thank you. And it was something I said in jest to take away from the legitimacy of the organization, because they cannot legislate. They cannot, the regulations and any encroachment on anyone's God-given liberties is unconstitutional and is invalid. And I know everyone's ideas are different, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, obviously, from our conversation, and to talk about the idea. But I'm not saying right now I'm going to throw a barbecue, and I'm not handing out those flyers. Like, if I did give information, I would make sure that I'm certain about it and that it's legitimate.
There's no plan yet that I'm aware of. I'm throwing this idea out there for the listeners. I have more confidence in the listeners' collective intelligence than my own. And John Kimball, you think this is a waste of money? It's not. Like making yourself relatable, and you can serve Hebrew Naturals support brand. I really wouldn't cross the streams on this. Like, if you got problems with Israel and stuff, that is perfectly respectable. But I would not turn this into an anti-Israel thing. Focus on the gun rights. Focus on the civil rights violations. Focus on the corruption of the ATF and the absolute boorish behavior of this potential director of theirs, who is gloating over the fact he participated in the extinguishment of dozens of the children and their lives, burning them alive in Central Texas. I can't even get my tongue around it. It's so horrible. That is important. They absolutely have opened up a weakness. The way to exploit it is to spread awareness. Every single one of these gun podcasts should be talking about Chipman, and they're not. They need to wear him out. He needs to become a meme.
So there's some comments, and it'd be good to get some clarity on this. So is the
I know it was Sport Brand. I didn't mean to like single you out. I I just was like, well, let's not leave. I'm kind of the type of guy that's real tight in these types of situations because this is absolutely and Dark. I know you're not advocating for it, but this is absolutely an actionable course of action that is passive. You can continue to do this. You can have a good time all summer, making it just into a fun thing you do downtown when you're serving hot dogs and hamburgers to your fellow citizens and showing them a good time, some patriotism, some culture, and you know, hand them out a flyer and say, hey, look, you know, we're a little worried about this ATF director and just the general behavior of these guys anyway. And you can talk about whatever you want.
So that was my question: is the idea to feed and inform the general public, or potential ATF agents, or both?
Either, whoever comes up, whoever will listen to you. Hell, if they come over in their with their shirt on, offer them a hot dog. Tell them about themselves. Because the younger ones are going to be like 23 years old, 24 years old, and they're going to probably not know a damn thing about any of this. They weren't even born. Tell them about Chipman. Tell them about Chipman's exaggeration. Tell them about what happened at Waco, what happened at Ruby Ridge, the fact they shot this man, this woman, the wife of, I can't remember this guy. I should have memorized all the facts, but I know they blasted this woman holding her own baby. They killed his children. You know, it's just, they slaughtered that whole family. I mean, it makes me red with anger to even think about it. And then this Chipman guy's got the gall, sit in front of Senator Cruz, in front of Congress. So you obviously know he doesn't respect any of those elected officials. God knows what the guy's aware of about their behavior, but you know, he's looking at Cruz. He's like, well, I had a great time in Central Texas burning all those children alive. And that's not good. And you know what? The younger ATF agents, the people you might interact with, or even younger federal agents, whatever, you're going to make a dent. This is true information. We're not tricking them. We're just telling them, we're showing them a mirror and say, hey, look at yourself. Look at what you've been doing. Can you live with this?
So Heath says the ATF was formerly part of the United States Department of the Treasury, having been formed in 1886 as the Revenue Laboratory within the Treasury Department's Bureau of Internal Revenue. I was unaware. Thank you.
Well, that was an awesome name. I wish they kept it. Then they might be able to focus on maybe doing something a little bit more productive.
They were the original IRS.
Well, whatever. At this point, I'll take anything other than ATF.
Yeah. That's Wolf. What's up, brother? What's up, Tim Payne?
I mean, not to get on semantics or anything. So technically, would that make them a private entity? Because I know for a fact that the Federal Reserve.
No.
Well, I mean,
the Federal Reserve, everybody's pretty sure is a private entity. You can't just constantly throw that out. I've never heard anything like that in my entire life. I deal with lawyers all the time, sometimes about gun rights issues. I would have heard it by now if it was true. Okay, it's not, and that's why I am going to absolutely underline this and highlight it and scream about it, because this is the type of fucking bullshit that does not need to get into circulation. It is a disease of disinformation that could begin to spread. Let's focus on simple things like talking about what shitbirds these guys were in the 90s, and the fact that Chipman is gloating about killing a bunch of U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. Okay? And that's great. Maybe they want people like that around. And really, we need to show that it is the Democrats and I know some of you guys hate the parties. Trust me, I have barbecues with the guys running for office in the Republican Party in my area. Okay? Nobody believes in COVID out here. We are all fucking terrified, and it's absolutely disgusting how ignorant some of these guys are. And I'm the worst criminal. Worst offender, because I'm not in the process. I'm so disgusted by it. I just kind of sit there. You guys can hear it when I'm on this stream. I'm absolutely angry. I'm like sitting there, and I've always got a snarky remark to fucking put a dagger in somebody that makes a misstep. And thankfully, they still invite me to barbecues occasionally. But, like the Democrats right now, they've opened up the floodgates. they're diluting the power of our vote. They're accusing us all of being racist. They're using the non-governmental organizations, the NGOs like Soros, his foundations, to fund activist prosecutors, like the one in I prefer a different kind of screaming. Yeah, me too. I'm really trying to stop dropping F-bombs. Sorry. And yo, Dark, I don't mean to hijack your stream or nothing. You just,
No, you're good, man.
You blow the silent whistle or something, I'll shut up. But no, I'm really passionate about this. If any of you guys think this is a good idea, please spread it. And Dark, talk to the other guys like yourself, these other guests you have that have shows. Spread this idea. This one could work. It doesn't have to be on any specific date. Make it a regular affair this summer. Okay, people are hungry, not just for food, but just somebody to talk to right now. There's a lot of. I saw it. I was downtown the other day. I just saw some random teenager wandering around, looking for stuff to do. And you know, if there were people there, you know, a couple times a week, serving hot dogs and good times and a conversation, there'd be a place for that person to talk to, and then you'd have another heart and a mind on your side. And that's important, very important.
Aletheia, what's your take on the whole concept?
Well, I think for the most part, I agree that we need to stay on one topic, right? Because the thing about it is, if you look at BLM specifically, they focus on the topic of racism, which is like, you know, obviously it has a very broad definition. That's how they organize vast numbers of people. So, I mean, not to, you know, not to attack anybody in the chat. However, I think there was a comment in regards to, you know, the kosher, you know, and then we talked about Israel specifically. I do agree that we need to keep it within the context of the Second Amendment, because you know, once we start bringing in other topics such as, you know, Israel, things of that nature, you're going to get a lot of division. And hell, like, we're already divided as you know, you could already see that we're incredibly divided, our side is. And so, but I will say this, you know, I don't, it's going to be an uphill battle, but at the end of the day, I think that we are going to be able to overcome it, because it's not just low individuals, you know, everyday people such as ourselves that are fighting for the right to keep the Second Amendment, but also, you know, actually the, you know, major corporations as well, some of them at least, you know, Remington, things of that, you know, the big funders of the NRA. Yes, there are some issues with the NRA, but overall, they are a good force for, you know, trying to get things of this nature.
Could I say one thing about the NRA? Like,
yeah, go ahead.
Have been totally bastardized. Like, you need to know a lot about them, but like, they've had some major problems and they're not very aggressive. Like, honestly, an entity like the NRA with the budget that it has needs to be all over some of these shootings and some of the goings on, and you can tell they're bought off. They're not willing to really push the envelope. And you got organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center out there keeping tallies of what demographic shift outcome they're wanting. And you got the NRA not doing a damn thing other than counting how many suits they got in their college. And
they only care about money.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the point that I'm trying to make, is when you have major corporations that only care about money, you know, hey, if they're going to ban all firearms in general, that's going to hurt their bottom line. So that's going to force them to get out there and try to fight back. Because as Jacob Rothschild, or one of the Rothschilds, once said, you know, money rules the world. That's a fact. In fact, I think the real quote is, I do not care who makes the laws. I care, you know, who prints the money. Something of that
quote's pretty well known, and it's a good one. But if you know, we've lost spiritual currency. That's something they're interested in getting rid of, because spiritual currency isn't always measured in money. All right. It really isn't measured in money, but you know, if there's no spiritual currency out there, money becomes a lot more effective, because if you have enough pride in yourself and enough pride in the people around you and enough love for the people around you, you're difficult to buy. And right now, people like the Rothschilds, or really any economic influencer, right? It's going to want to dehumanize, divide, and injure people in such a way as to make them more easily influenced by its power. And the power that you see coming from the outside here is primarily money. That's where your BlackRock is. It's where your Chinese guys are, buying up real estate and bribing people. Look at John Cena getting on his knees, apologizing on his knees, begging for forgiveness for acknowledging that Taiwan is a country. What on earth is wrong with these people? Do they not have any pride? They know that no one's probably going to look, and they figure, hey, I'll just bend the knee a little bit to the Chinese, and they'll go away, and they'll leave me alone, and I can continue to make money. And they didn't have enough pride in their own people. Like, I bet you some of you guys out there were thinking I was talking about maybe white pride or something like that per se. And that's fine too. But I'm going to say this. We don't have any pride in the United States. And then, you know,
nobody does.
They're tearing it apart. They're tearing it apart. And,
if you look at our country,
you
compare it to other countries, like, look how homogenous, like, all these other, now granted they're oppressed, granted there are other challenges that come along with it, but I mean, imagine if, like, the whole right-left paradigm is fake. Okay, so I'm just going to start this with that. However, bear with me. Look at what the left, and we'll say what people call leftist extremists, have done over the past year to send a message. And if anyone on the right, if constitutionalists, if the NRA, which I don't believe is effective either and has been, you know, like basically running off of mafia tactics for decades, but like the GOA and Firearms Policy Coalition, and if everyone got together to head in one direction, we'd be in a completely different place.
Yeah, 100%.
Or at least headed in a different direction.
Well, that's like in order to even have these discussions, there's a foundation of knowledge that needs to be at least transmitted to other people so they even know what you're talking about half the time. And that's why I'm really starting to think it's better to be out there with like a grill and a truck. So like you got a pickup truck, you take a grill and you take some flyers discussing. I mean, there's tons of stuff on the internet. Just go to a website, look at someone talk about Ruby Ridge or whatever, use a printer, print off a few flyers. You know, for your own sake, do some due diligence, make sure you've checked the information. And while you're handing out hot dogs and hamburgers, you hand out information about the ATF and this Chipman monster, because he is a monster. That's what when you can actually call this guy a monster. And he's a very manipulative person. One person said that was the goal of putting him out there, and that's right. But we need to make them pay for that, because if they're trying to engage in that type of intimidation and that type of what do you mean, Chris? You don't want to dox yourself? Well, like in what way?
It was like, a side conversation.
Oh, what? Oh, okay, because I was gonna say, like, at some point, honestly, and it's ironic coming from the guy with a picture on his face who doesn't show himself. You know, at some point there's honestly strength in not being anonymous, and there's strength in being anonymous sometimes. It depends on, you know. Oh, okay, Chris, sorry. But yeah, I just like, yeah, we've got to have these conversations with people in the real world. We have to leave the podcast box. I'm sorry. Live stream one of these podcasts from the back of a truck feeding people. Like Dugan was all about feeding people. I wish he'd help do some of this, you know. I mean, any of them, Pacone, any of them, just they've got followings. Hell, this guy we might end up talking to. I think we should see if he's be willing, or at least his listeners be willing to entertain the notion.
I think that for this idea to at least get some wheels under it, you would need a minimum of 50 influential individuals that would go, you know, literally one in each state and go to each capital, and it would have to start like that. And have a big,
it needs to start. People need to start making the noise to get it to do. So, like, let's start going and making noise and telling people, hey, People need to and we also need self-activated people. Like this, influencers are great and all, but honestly, I'm more thrilled to see normal Joes out there doing this than 50 influencers. The only reason influencers are important is they need to spread the pollen from one field to the next. You can do this right now this weekend and start doing it maybe once or twice every week, or once or twice a month, or however much you can do, and you can start doing it and just hand out flyers. And look, they want to take pictures of you or mess with you, take pictures of them back. You're in public. You're engaged in a form of protest that's sanctioned by the First Amendment. And this is important. And if they harass you, film it, because monetize the video. YouTube will probably pay you to get people aware of whatever you went through before they, demonetize you for the usual reasons, right?
Yeah, I actually think, funny enough, I think, and I don't know how, I think this stream is already demonetized because Chris was like, I can't super chat you for some reason. So.
Oh, yeah, probably talking about governmental organizations too much. I bet you that's a, bad word.
Honestly, I think it's probably the usage of the words ATF and Chipman, which, I mean, it's a conversation. Like, but I mean, it's not a big deal. Like, the only, and I know commonly, like, people that are, any type of content creator that say, oh, it's demonetized, like, makes it sound like it's about the money. It's not, like, the money isn't shit. Like, you literally don't get anything for AdSense. The issue is that they no longer recommend the content, right? So they don't, it doesn't come up in suggested feeds or recommended videos. When you have videos just playing on your phone, it's not just going to pop up like it would in some other cases.
Well, gentlemen and audience, I am ragged. I don't know if y'all can't hear it, but my voice is gone and I'm tired. I'm going to have to sign off early, but I really wanted to beat that.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, it's got some money. I like the amount too.
2, 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna sign off. But Dark, I'm certain y'all can hold down the fort, right?
Yeah, man, appreciate it.
Y'all take care.
Appreciate it.
Peace and love, and serve some people some hot dogs. Tell them about these monsters at the ATF. Bye.
All right, man.
All right, take it easy. So, Sigma said something that was really interesting about like the whole demoralization thing, about, the fact that they are preaching this idea of money is more important than spirituality. In fact, you can actually see this in a lot of like the old, the old textbooks versus the new textbooks. In fact, I don't know if any of you guys are aware, but since this since this video is already going to get taken down, most likely anyways, let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein for a little bit, because I think this kind of plays into the whole spiritual demoralization thing.
So his name more than twice.
So, all right, okay, we're gonna keep count. That's number one. All right. So
that's one.
This one. All right. If I say it twice, so if I want to get rid of this stream at any moment, I'll just say it again.
From now on, we'll refer to him as Jeff.
Jeff. All right. Oh no, I'm not going to say that. But anyways, so a lot of people, everybody knows about the situation with Little St. John Island and all, the things that he did. But one little interesting thing is the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, who was not only a MP in British Parliament, but also he was also a spy for Mossad. And if that's not good enough for you as well, he actually owned a textbook company called Macmillan. And so Macmillan Textbook Company actually partnered with McGraw-Hill to create college textbooks. So in a way, Jeffrey Epstein is actually, there's number two. He's actually interconnected with the whole publishing and textbook company. It's very interesting because there's so many different angles that you can look about it. You can look at it from a celebrity perspective or a general public / publishing perspective. It's all very interesting, but I encourage everybody watching to look up Robert Maxwell and things of that nature. Oh, there's the fish guy.
I had to throw it up there, man.
Hell yeah, man.
It's just, thank you for sharing that. Just a quick reminder, don't forget, guys, we said that we were having a contest, and I think it's maybe a week or so. Whoever can create the best Photoshop or the best meme or the best anything using this picture, all you have to do is search Chipman mouth pick. And what did John Crump with the GOA said he'd throw in like a range bag and a bunch of stuff, and I was going to throw in, but it's like a really cool. He said, "I win." All right, sorry, my apologies. You were talking about real shit.
How many hot dogs can fit in that mouth? I think that's a very interesting question there.
Oh, Chris, thank you, brother. For some reason, the message didn't get through. So if you resubmit what you said just in comment, I'll read that. Thank you, brother. 1993. Is there something significant about that year?
I think it was the Waco massacre, 1993.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
In fact, what's really interesting is I actually went to the Waco compound a few months back, and just kind of saw the, anybody can visit the compound. It's a fairly large, ranch, and it's very easily publicly accessible. And what was interesting about it was the fact that, when you go to those places, you kind of have like this, like, okay, I'm not like this, spooky ghost individual or anything of that nature, but it just had this eerie feel to it that I can't even describe. It was all very interesting, but so yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, I honestly believe that we're going to come to a point where, everybody talks about how the normies are all black pilled and they can't figure stuff out on their own. But at the end of the day, I agree with Sigma when he talks about there's still hope for the average individual in trying to comprehend, this stuff that we're talking about, specifically when it comes to, election fraud, the karate cold, things of that nature.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's still a lot of good, positive pride of our country left as well. And I wouldn't agree that, that normies are black-pilled. I think they're so caught in this life of just convenience and consumerism that they're not even available to take in information like that. I mean, even like look at the way people categorize people that, like, I'll say preppers, because that's what, the words that they use. What do they typically say before the words prepper?
I don't know.
Doomsday prepper, right? They make people that either prepare or create, renewable sources of water, food, and secure, shelter and security look crazy. Like the only way, or the only reason that anyone could possibly prepare like that, they must be crazy. Like that shit used to just be called living, right? And your job was to do the work that it takes to create that, like,
and not rely on other corporations to do the heavy lifting for you, and you actually going out there and doing it yourself and doing all the heavy lifting. So not only do you learn things that you can pass down to your ancestors, and I mean, that's how civilization is built. Civilization is not, ordered from Amazon. It doesn't come in a nice little pretty package with a little bow on top and you just unravel it. And, that's what people don't understand. But I will say this, we could talk about all these normies not understanding what's really happening behind the scenes with the whole karate cold. I mean, even when you watch the news today, a lot of the stuff is getting out. I mean, I honestly didn't expect that.
And sorry, you reminded me, that was the part of my other point. My apologies to cut you off, but just to kind of tie it up, that's kind of why, like, I wanted to bring it up, because if you look somebody in the face that's a normie that has not yet awoken, and you give any of this information to them, they couldn't fathom it. They're like, how is this even possible? Well, they likely couldn't fathom it because we all woke up at some point. They likely couldn't fathom it because they're like, okay, you're saying that we're headed in this direction. You're saying that the world is ending, there's too much government control and overreaching and encroachment of rights and blah, blah, blah. How could that possibly be true if everything I need to live is, sorry, it's still a fly here. is boom right there.
Right.
All my food I get delivered to me, right? That's how most of them do it. I get my groceries delivered to me. You know, I turn on, got them. Hell yeah. Sorry,
There we go.
Groceries delivered. You know, I get. And I'm not saying me personally, right? If y'all don't know where I stand on that, then welcome to the channel. I get, you know, turn on my tap and the water comes out, and flip on the switch and the electric. Like, in their mind, this life of convenience, like, how could it ever be at risk because of where we are now?
Right, but the thing about it is, there's actually a side effect to everything that has happened over the past year and a half, and I think the side effect is, I think, you know, it depends upon, you know, you can look at it about all these certain ways, right? But they're all pointing towards the same thing, right? Because, like, if you were to ask an astrologer, you know, what age are we in? They would say the age of Aquarius, which is also known as the age of the, you know, the awakening. If you were to ask a Christian, or, you know, Revelation, and then if you were to ask a Hindu, they would say the Kali Yuga. At the end of the day, you have all these different sources that are saying that, you know, I don't want to be the type of crazy individual that's saying, you know, the end is near, anything of that nature. But a lot of things are starting to shape up to where there is two paths that human civilization can go down. Either, you know, the path of Jeffy Boy that we all know and all, you know, love and care about, or we can go on another path, which is the path of, you know, trying to create more humanity. So, or trying to create a better, you know, system for humanity. And I mean, that's the thing right there. I mean, I don't know, you know, I don't know what your guys' opinion is on Alex Jones, but I will say this: he is responsible for waking up so many individuals on all these different topics. And right now he's really concerned about the thing that goes in your arm. I'll just say that. I don't want to get the video taken down just yet.
The jab.
Yeah, the jab. Because, I mean, I could pull up some information. It's a little bit tedious, but there are certain studies specifically out of the University of Texas at Austin that states that mRNA vaccines literally killed every single animal that they tested on within about a 3-month time span. And I just want to remind you that, you know, animals don't live as long as humans, right? So, you know, in humans, he's predicting like 2 years. I don't know if that's true or not, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Another thing that's interesting as well is all these private corporations are starting to donate all of their, you know, unused vaccines to the third world to try to save the third world. I mean, the thing about it is, what's interesting is they haven't cared about the third world in forever. And then now all of a sudden we have COVID, and now we got to help all the people in the third world and give them all the extra little shot in the arms. Doesn't that, you know, seem a little bit suspicious to you?
Well, I'll tell you that I think everyone had a point throughout the last year of the karate cough, we'll call it. YouTube deleted your comment. I bet, yeah. So they will delete a bunch of stuff. Oh, and really quickly, so Bacon, just to hit your comment, come on, Dark. You know you got a wee bit excited to hear you might get Amazon packages via drone. Okay, so I'm the guy, and it'll go back to touch on, you know, what you're saying. I'm the guy that canceled Amazon Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus. What's that shit that my daughter used to mess around? ABC Mouse, like every single thing. Like, I literally canceled everything. I do still use eBay though, for sure. Like, that's I built a gang of things off of eBay. Oh shit, where was I going with this?
Well, I just want to add something. I'm incredibly glad that you canceled, you know, things like Disney Plus and Nickelodeon. I forgot the name of the individual, but there was a guy, hopefully the audience will know who I'm talking about. There was a guy that used to work for Nickelodeon. He was a major producer, and let's just say that he had the same interests as our friend Jeffy Boy. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, if you watch a lot of the Disney movies, there's, if you look on the FBI website, they show you a little document that shows the the Jeffy boy symbols. I don't know if I can say the P word or not. And some of them, you got the triangle, you got the the circle, the infinity circle is what it's called. And you can see a lot of these symbols in both Disney and also Nickelodeon television as well. In fact, when they were filming iCarly and Victoria, there's actually compilations on YouTube that you can look up where, I mean, I just want to remind you, the actors on Victoria and iCarly, when they were filming it, they were minors. They were teenagers, okay? And yet the show's producers were specifically adding sexual innuendo to a show that's meant for teenagers and, being acted out by teenagers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all very messed up. And like the reason why I brought up the whole, Jeffy boy thing was because a lot of people don't, it hasn't been, revealed to people just quite yet. And I think a lot of people are their eyes are starting to, they're starting to wake up. But the whole deal with Jeffy boy, that's been around for thousands of years. Okay. Like this whole idea of, the elites getting into this, satanic, pedophile cults. This has lasted all the way from, ancient Babylon, ancient Sumeria, Mesopotamia. In fact, there's a place called, oh, by the way, your video is about to get nuked. It's 100% chance. There's a place called Bohemian. I know, right? There's a place called Bohemian Grove. I want everybody to look it up. The thing about Bohemian Grove is it's in San Francisco, if you're going to look it up. And our elites have this major meeting every single year at this place. And at this place, there is a giant statue of Minerva. And Minerva, if you didn't know, so think about it this way, right?
The owl?
Yes, it is the owl god. But think about it this way. It's basically another culture's equivalent of Moloch. So like, when you look at the Roman civilization and the Greek civilization, you'll see that their gods are the same, but they have different meanings. So like Zeus would be Jupiter, something, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like the same thing with Minerva and Moloch as well. They're both the same for the most part. They have the same use. In fact, there's actually videos where they actually sacrifice human, hopefully these are fake. I don't know if they are. I mean, I'm not making any claims here, but there are literally pictures where they sacrifice human effigies to Moloch at this Bohemian Grove. It's very messed up.
I've heard a lot about that.
And people always ask, well, if all this stuff is made up, then why are the elites doing this? Well, I'm going to come here. I just want to let everybody know all this shit about, satanic, Luciferian Satanism. I don't know, man. I've read books on Freemasonry. There's a lot of different schools of thought in Freemasonry, right? So there's like the Kabbalistic section of Freemasonry. There's the alchemic. There's the Hermetic. There's all these different schools of thought. But the thing about it is, if you go up higher in the stages of Freemasonry, you get to the point where they start talking about the light bearer, things of that nature. I'm not really going to go into that because that's kind of a tangent. It's not really important. But I will say that, when you hear all these Q people talking about, the Satanists and all things of that nature, yeah, it's a lot of the stuff that they believe in. I think it's all fake, but they do have some truth in that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that too, and I'm honestly, I couldn't say like with certainty.
You can't. That's the thing, right? Because if you think about it, the average individual that is not like us, there's actually a quote, I believe, in one of I believe it's either the Bible or the Quran, that says that those that are foolish will believe with certainty, but those that are wise will constantly question themselves. Now, I don't want to like stroke everyone's ego, but I think for the vast majority of people watching here tonight, the reason why you guys are here is because you guys have questions. You guys are you have doubts in your mind. You're not like these type. You're not the BLM Antifa types that, know with absolute certainty what they think they know, when in actuality, they don't actually know anything. So I just want to point that out real quick. But
So
yeah, this go ahead.
Just really quickly, here's an interesting thing on that, and I kind of want to spin off of this comment. Crack Feezer, I think the biggest hurdle to get over with people is accepting that the talking heads on TV can be wrong about anything. It's much easier to talk to people if they already are already skeptical about something. So here's an interesting thing about that, and this is what I see in, I'll call it our community, right? The alt media side. So let's say there's people and they're quote normies. Okay, they have not yet awoken, and they're going through their day-to-day life of convenience and consumerism, and like we already discussed, and they're getting their information from the mainstream media, and they are literally being told what to think. Okay, they're not being given the whole. If there's 100
big enchilada
information, yeah, they're being given these small snippets that are leading them in a certain direction, telling them what to think. Okay, so then we get those same people that, let's say they hear something or see something and they're like, oh my God, the mainstream media lied to me. Well, I need to go look for information elsewhere if they care, if they're curious, and if that genuinely provokes thought and curiosity, then they go look somewhere else. Okay, then they do something like, let's say they find some types of alt media, and then they're like, this is what I need, right? Then they start following all these different YouTubers and alt media, and then they fall victim to the same exact thing that they were before. And I see this all the time. They jump on a bandwagon and they listen to a guy on a stream telling them what to think, as opposed to people that give information and then they say, okay, now you go do your own research and you find other information and you draw your own conclusions from this, determine if it's false or if it's accurate or whatever. People in our community are doing the same exact thing.
Right.
That's where it becomes dangerous.
Well, it's the whole entire society, the entire backbone of civilization is based upon, it's kind of like a duh statement, right? It's based off of consumerism. And but you got to ask yourself the question, why is that? Why do they want, the vast majority of people do not actually have, especially if you're, let's say, a single parent and you got to work 2 jobs and you got to deal with the kids, everything of that nature, you're not going to have time to learn about Bohemian Grove and the, Luciferian satanic cult that has existed since ancient Babylonian times. You're definitely not going to that won't even cross people's minds. Because you don't have time to deal with that. You honestly don't. But I think what's important to, I kind of want to touch on the topic of, so back to the whole ATF situation, right? Because,
before we go there, can I share one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I want to make sure that you are able to, get back to your point too. One of the things that I was saying, and it's kind of like that when you're breaking habits of when you first wake up and you're like, oh my God, what I'm being told is bullshit. I'm being fed lies and all that. And I brought this up several times, but it's important to use it as an example. Okay, so a lot of people, when they look at the mainstream media and they realize that they're being lied to, that's when they go out and seek different information or make different life choices. Okay. And I know that when the karate cold first hit, okay, let's go back to March 2020. Okay. Sorry, I had to think about that. And when it first hit and shutdowns were happening and, it was all over the place, you had some element of okay, what is this? How bad is this? How real is this? And you have some level of fear, right? And that was their intention. Until I saw a patent from
the Rothschilds.
From Richard Rothschild that they developed, because you start thinking damn, should I get tested? Should I get tested for antibodies? Should I get, and it wraps these, normies up. Aside from people in communities like this and others like it, it would be hard to meet someone that hasn't been tested, that hasn't had an A/B test, that hasn't had COVID or known somewhat. Like it's a small pool. So until I literally pulled up that Richard Rothschild developed a patent for the Karate Cold 19 testing in 2015. Okay, let that sink in for a second. In 2015, one of the families that have been running the world, all the world's problems, working through challenges and the solutions, and profiting from all three sides of the conflicts, one of them developed a patent for COVID-19 testing and tracking and tracing in 2015. That's when it was like, okay, all right, like there's obviously we know that this is bullshit.
And if you don't mind, it's actually relatively easy to find on Google, because you can go on Google Patents and look up the. In fact, there's a website where you can literally look up the name. So if you could put that on the screen, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody is starting to question the overall story that we have been given over the past, 100 years about almost.
Well, the other thing too,
everything. I mean, they don't call it the Kali Yuga, the Great Awakening, for absolutely no reason at all. So I kind of want to backtrack a little bit, and this will actually play into
last piece real quick. The other thing too is when you am I still screen sharing? Okay.
Yeah, we can see that beautiful face of David Chipman. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. The other thing too is that from that original patent in 2015 that Richard Rothschild took out, from 2000, I think 18, 19, and 20, started taking out additional patents for the same virus tracking and tracing through smart devices. So they're literally collecting probably millions and millions and millions, if not more, billions of dollars for like the suffering of an entire populace. Hold on, let me pull this up. Okay.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And it's absolutely terrible. And more people are starting to fully realize it. But I will say this, when we talked about the whole, there's Alex Jones. See, I always thought Alex Jones was just absolute. Yep, that's it right there.
Okay, so this is Google Patents. This is a list of patents from Richard A. Rothschild. Do some research on their name all the way back to like pre-World War I, which they funded and profited from both World War I and World War II.
And they're responsible for the establishment of the first and second, and even, possibly the third central banks of the United States, the third one being the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. Okay, so first one right here, October 13th, 2015. Okay, that was their first patent. Now, I think that's fine. There's another one that is a little more clear for them, because people on like mobile devices and whatnot, they're not going to be able to see that. But yeah, sorry, you can go ahead.
No, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's pretty easy to look up these patents. In fact, I wish I had had everything on my screen. So I'll tell you what, man, I think more and more people need to download and keep things on a separate hard drive, because look, at the end of the day, I think if things are going to get really bad, like really bad, I mean, I don't know if you guys know about Terry A. Davis. A lot of people think that he's, this, schizophrenic crazy man. However, there is some truth in some of the things that he says, some of it. Okay. So for example, way back when nobody knew about this, he was talking about how the CIA had backdoors into the CPUs, the overall hardware of everyone's computer. Now, of course, obviously, him being Terry A. Davis, he had a very colorful way of expressing his intellectual qualities, but the overall message that he was trying to give out was 100% right on. In fact, if you look it up, Intel has developed this new technology that's placed in the overall like below the operating system, so like deep down within the inner workings of the computer, a software that actually censors certain words, specifically when you're playing video games. And if somebody says something, your computer will automatically mute them, silence them, things of that nature. It's all very messed up. But at the end of the day, I really came on here because I wanted to talk about. I mean, I had a lot of things to talk about. I think, I kind of want to get back on track when it comes to the Cabal, as some people, reference to the Kabbalah, which is a sort of ancient mysticism that has been practiced in the Middle East and has a great, a powerful influence on Freemasonry and other secret societies that have a grip on our society. A lot of people talk about, this idea, and even Alex Jones, I hate to keep on bringing him up and stealing from him, but I always found it interesting when he would talk, he would always reference this idea of like there being like a higher dimension. Okay. The higher dimension as in being consciousness itself. In fact, the other day he talked about how there are certain symbols within popular culture, specifically in the media, about, Masonic elements and also Luciferian satanic elements. One of the best video to look up is Katy Perry's popular Dark Horse. The specific lyrics actually, they have like some sort of Masonic meaning to them, a deeper meaning, if you will. And so I mean, I used to be an atheist, and I always used to think this whole thing was absolutely crazy, but there's actually a scientific way of approaching it. There's actually a thing called the Institute of Noetic Sciences, which was founded by the sixth man to walk the moon, Edgar Mitchell. I might be incorrect in that, but I believe it was Edgar Mitchell. And he funded this organization with the idea of trying to expand the scientific scope of consciousness itself. Because think about it this way, earlier in the stream, we kind of touched on the idea of subversion and how they've changed the entire framework of society to try to get away from certain, the higher forms of consciousness to a more materialistic approach, which, I mean, for as long as human civilization has existed, we have always had this, some people call it spiritual or this higher, conscious, perspective of looking at things. And for some reason, ever since the 1900s, that has seemed to have gone away as we have created certain political organizations and political orders that have taught that the nature of humanity is something that needs to be destroyed, and that men shouldn't be men, women shouldn't be women. There's no such thing as the masculine element. There's no such thing as yin and yang, things of that nature. But there is starting to be an awakening within the scientific community. And you can see that with the whole jab situation. There are certain scientists, for example, Michael Yeadon, who was a chief scientist at Pfizer, that specifically stated that the vaccine was meant, oh boy, I said the word, I shouldn't have said it, was meant to be a depopulation device. And this is the chief scientist of Pfizer that said that. Just let that sink in for a minute here. I mean, it's not some crazy schizophrenic QAnon boomer that goes around saying, ridiculous things on Facebook. It is literally the former chief scientist of Pfizer. And if that's not clear enough, I don't know what is, honestly.
Well, and that's funny because, like, there's people like the TED pill, right? The TED pill has been completely shut down. His YouTube is gone, right? As soon as he hit 1,000 subs, so YouTube is automatically monetizing people that hit 1,000 subs, and they may be even, putting ads on everyone's stuff now. Who knows? But apparently, when he hit 1,000 subs and they did a manual review on his channel, they went through, and one of the things that nailed him was that he had said that he wasn't going to take a jab of anything that was developed from
Aborted fetal tissue.
that. Those words work too. I was going to try to word it a little more creatively, but yeah, and pulled up the factual information and showed that, and that was one of the things that boom nailed him. I mean, why wouldn't somebody be able to talk about factual information?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It doesn't make any
like
sense.
saying like anything like there's the aliens are coming on the 17th at 9 p.m. Wearing a tinfoil hat, like just like the same thing. Like we just pulled up the patents for Richard Rothschild, and he created a patent in 2015 specifically for that purpose. That is factual information, that is public information, that is published. Like,
you guys want to get schizophrenic in here? Absolutely
I
crazy.
mean, don't get like clown world crazy, but like,
buddy, we're living in clown world. Everything is crazy.
well, I mean, I know we're living in it, but just yeah, do your thing, but be cautious. That's all.
What if I told you that you can see patents of suspected UFOs on Google Patents?
Man, I will tell you right now that this whole UFO and alien shit is a red herring to distract all of us from the truth. I'm one of the people that I'm not saying that I do not believe that they do or do not exist. I'm saying that it is very interesting timing for the government to declassify things and then send little foot soldiers out to do interviews to talk about how real they are. And, of course, conspiracy theorists are going to get all wrapped up in, what they call conspiracy theorists, typically people that talk about factual information. And all of a sudden, like, that's the focus. I mean, how crazy is that? We were right. The aliens like exist. Like, oh my God, like, and then all of a sudden it's, no more focus on my God-given liberties. It's aliens.
Well, to hang on a second, I want to go through the comments real quick. Dirt McGirt is 100% correct. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the technology that you see is actually, I would say, is ours. And I'm going to go into, try to get into as much detail about why that is. But it all comes down to Operation Paperclip, and specifically the Germans in the 1940s, they were developing what they called wonder weapons to try to win the war.
Just to throw this out there, I didn't, say that with the intention of discrediting anything you're going to say. I just think that whether real or not, the mainstream media, all the way up to the government and everyone else in between, I believe is using it as a tactic to distract, delay, to do something to control us, because their goals are always send messages to either make them move or not move. Like that's what I meant, not to discredit anything that you were going to say.
No, right. And I 100% agree with that. And actually, if you're to look at, you mentioned some of the individuals that they have, the actors, if you will, that go on national television and describe the phenomenon. Think about it this way. There's only a handful of individuals, like quote unquote journalists, that have the honor of disclosing the most important entity, the most important thing has ever been disclosed in the history of humanity, or of this civilization. Why would they pick like 5 individuals? I mean, you only see Luis Elizondo, the guy from Las Vegas, the Jeremy Corbell guy, and then like 2 other guys. In fact, if you're watching the next time the TV shows up and starts talking about UFOs, I want you guys to count how many times they say the word threat. Because every single time they talk about UFOs, they always talk about it in a way that seems like it is a very threatening, very dangerous thing. And the thing about it is, if it were truly dangerous, we would all already be dead by now. And that kind of plays into the whole, in fact, DB Cooper is 100% right. The media is starting their grooming for the fake alien invasion. And to kind of illustrate that point, when Werner von Braun, right before he died, Werner von Braun, by the way, was the individual that built the V2 rockets for the Germans, and also had a huge part in developing the Saturn V rocket, which most people don't. It hasn't been taught, but the Saturn V actually was built with the capability of going to Mars. And in fact, that's what Werner von Braun wanted to do. He wanted to skip the whole moon exploration and go directly to Mars. But, you know, NASA and the other governmental agencies and the glow-in-the-darks, they had different ideas. But on Werner von Braun's deathbed, he said specifically, and you can look this up, it's true, that the key to establishing the New World Order would be through a fake alien invasion. And you can see that right now with the whole idea of trying to get people all scared about the whole UFO phenomenon. In fact, there's nothing to be scared about. The vast majority of the technology that they're showing off, I don't know about the Tic Tacs. Okay, that's one thing that I don't know about. But specifically, the let's take the Phoenix Light phenomenon, the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. The individuals that witnessed that event, they said they saw a big triangular craft. In fact, you guys can look it up. It's called the TR-3B. And most people think that it's like an advanced military vehicle based upon the same principles that I believe it's called the Germans had two types of UFOs. They had the Vril spacecraft, which was based upon the technology of the Vedas. That's where it gets a little bit tinfoil hat, because it wasn't based upon mechanical, physical technologies, but more of I don't know how to describe it. They were trying to get some sort of esoteric technology. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. And then the other one, which is the Hannebrew, I think I butchered that. That's how you, it's in German. The Hannebrew spacecraft is based upon, I believe, Mercury. If you were to look at a lot of the documents from the FBI, you'll see that the UFO phenomenon happening in Germany has a lot of similarities with the UFO phenomenon happening right now today. And one illustration is in certain UFO stories, people talk about how their cars got shut off when the UFO hit, and certain things would happen, right? Well, the same exact things would happen to the Germans in the 1930s and the 1940s in the area where they were supposedly working on this advanced technology. Mm-hmm. So that's just, and it all goes down. I mean, at the end of the day, all of this stuff, it's a lot to unpack. I know it is, because most of the stuff that we're taught, I mean, heck, I'm taking, federal government right now, and most of the stuff is just, there's no point in even learning it at all. It's very sad. It's very sad, but
you had a story about that situation, didn't you?
In regards to, was it federal government? Was it like what?
I don't want to say the wrong N word. The Nazi alien stuff. Didn't you have a story about that?
Yeah. So the story goes, it's relatively pretty straightforward. So there was a farmer that they interviewed during the war, and he was driving his little tractor and towards the site, and for some reason he saw this like big glowing orb, and he basically, like, his entire tractor shut off, which is something that's very similar to what's happens in other UFO incidents. But I think, come to think about it, I think that's the wrong story. I think you would agree with me. I think the big enchilada, if you will, the tinfoil hat story was the one related to the nuclear silos, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with the nuclear silos, this is very interesting, by the way. This is all, I just looked at Robert Moore's comment. The TR-3B, very interesting. And I think my theory is that specific type is based upon the German technology. But anyway, so there's so many UFO incidents. You can go back thousands of years. I mean, you can go back hundreds of years to like Nuremberg. There's something called the Nuremberg painting that paints a giant picture of the whole UFO, like a UFO invasion. That is what I don't know about, to be honest with you. And there's actually a thing called the Institute of Noetic Science. I mentioned it earlier. and I'm gonna get back on that in a little bit after this story, because it all ties together. Literally everything. I know it's a jumbled up mess, but if I were to bring out a big schizophrenic pie chart, it all makes sense, and it all. I mean, you guys are gonna have to put on your tinfoil hats, but it's doable. So
they probably all got them on after what we've discussed today.
Hell yeah, now we're talking. So, there's these stories when you go into the FBI and CIA documents, which are all declassified, by the way. Anybody can read them. It talks specifically about there are incidents where these glowing orbs would come down from space and shut down our nuclear missile capabilities. These same glowing orbs, I don't know, there's an individual by the name of Stephen Greer, and he funds this thing called the the Cirrus Project, something of that nature. Some people say he's CIA. I don't know.
What project?
The Cirrus, so there's many names.
I thought you said the CRS project. I was like, hold up.
Yeah, he funds CRS 100%. No. So it's the Cirrus, as in like SIURUS, the star system. Yeah. He also calls it the close encounters with the fourth kind, things of that nature. Just look up Stephen Greer. One of his documentaries, he talks about the glowing orbs. So what's interesting,
I've seen some stuff with him.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So the main theory is that there are part of it's our technology, part of it is a physical extraterrestrial technology, and then the other one is from another dimension, extra dimensionals. The thing about it is, when you read about the nuclear missile silos, it's specific. It doesn't talk about the silver, the flying saucers and gray suits. It talks about glowing orbs coming down from space and shutting down our nuclear missile capability. Just think about that for a second. These things have the ability to just like telepathically connect to our nuclear missile systems and shut them down whenever they want. And that's what they did during the Cold War a lot of times. So in one of his documentaries, he talks about the Institute of Noetic Science. A lot of people say, oh, it's just this conspiracy theory group and it's all just, tinfoil hat. But all the people that are involved with this organization, the main individual, he has a PhD in electrical engineering and even psychology. He taught at Princeton for years. He was a professor there. He even worked for Bell Labs. We're not talking about tinfoil hat. I just want to let people know we're not talking about tinfoil hat people. We're talking about incredibly intelligent individuals that are studying human consciousness and its effects on the material world. And it's a real phenomenon. In fact, if you look at your high school physics textbooks, there's something called quantum entanglement and also superposition as well. So in the quantum realm, there are these quantum particles below the subatomic particles that make up atoms. So the subatomic particles would be the protons, electrons, and neutrons. We're talking even smaller than an electron when we talk about quantum particles. So in these quantum particles, they have this capability called superposition. So what superposition is, and this is the thing by which quantum computers run, by the way, they run off of the idea of superposition. So in a regular computer, they talk, you have ones and zeros, but in a quantum computer, you have ones and zeros, and you also have both at the same time. And what I'm talking about specifically are, like John Rice said, quarks and muons as well, all these other quantum particles and hadrons and all of that. And so what I'm trying to get at here, and I know I'm rambling on and on.
I'm sorry.
These quantum particles are influenced by consciousness, and it's a fact. There have been multiple There have been multiple experiments done when it comes to the whole idea of superposition and the double slit experiment. And they show that when a human being looks at a quantum particle, observes a quantum particle with their consciousness, the quantum particle has to determine whether it, so there's two spins, right? There's an up spin and a down spin. Yeah, exactly. That's actually what I'm talking about with the, I think that's called the duality idea in physics. It's
Did
both
you
a,
see that experiment that they did that light, just on that same topic, that light behaves differently when it's not being,
observed.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of what the that's an excellent point. So when you look at light, so some people say, some physicists said that light was a photon, others said it was a wave. Well, it's actually both. It's in kind of like a superposition. So as soon as you observe light, that's when it becomes a particle. That's when it has a a finite area where you can act. It's like, when it's a wave, it's everywhere at once. But when you look at it and observe it with your consciousness, that is when the wave model breaks down and it becomes a particle. So that's kind of, the idea of like, how consciousness has an effect on the material realm. And scientists have figured out how to create machines to use the same principle. And it's called random number generators. So the way a random number generator works is when you have, so so there's the idea of randomness. Let's just get that clear. Okay. So, if a box spits out numbers, 1 1 1 2 1 1, would you say that's a random number or a set of random numbers? No, not at all.
No.
It's all ones and then maybe two. But if you have another box and it spits out 1 3 5 7 8 9, obviously that box, that data is more random. And that's how the natural material realm is supposed to behave. We're not supposed to get all these ones and then a two. We're supposed to get a random set of numbers. And that's what you would expect from a random number generator. But the Institute of Noetic Science has this thing called the Global Consciousness Project. Now, the idea is they've done multiple experiments. One of the experiments that they're doing right now is whether human consciousness can determine where, a plasma ball, where the plasma in a plasma ball will hit the side of the glass. And so that's more of like more like scientifically rigorous, but they've done other experiments where they show that they have a random number generator and a LED light bulb glass. You take an individual. Let's say, this individual wants this LED light bulb to turn red. Now, naturally, if we're in the purely materialistic realm, like most people believe, and not some sort of like higher dimensional realm of the quantum realm, which brings in consciousness, and it's like tying the consciousness, which is known as the spiritual and the material together. I think that's what true quantum mechanical thinking seeks to do. So they took this multicolor LED light bulb, and they had this observer, this conscious human being, try to make the LED light bulb change to a certain color. Now, if consciousness had no effect on the quantum realm, they would get a purely random sample. They would get red, green, blue, all the colors. But they found that when a conscious observer made a dedicated effort to get a specific color and focused on that LED light bulb that was tied to a random number generator, which is the key to like the quantum realm. It's kind of think about it like as a Stargate to the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Turns out the conscious observer actually had an effect on the light bulb. It actually showed So think about it this way: you're getting what purely random is like red, green, blue, purple, pink, yada yada yada. But then they started getting red, red, purple, green, blue, red, green, indigo, red, things of that nature. They're very interesting, and they're actually seeking to do more scientific research on it.
And was this individual trying to do that with thought, with energy,
with thought,
flashcards, just with thought?
Yes. In fact, all the stuff that I'm talking about, all of this knowledge has been known for thousands of years. For example, do you guys actually believe that George Lucas came up with all of the ideas surrounding Star Wars? No, he didn't. In fact, all of the stuff that he basically stole ancient Egyptian history. In fact, there is a entity in ancient Egyptian mythology called the Jedi. Okay, it's D followed by Jedi. He just removed the D. And the whole basic idea of the Jedi in ancient Egyptian mythology is they had on one side, they had the sorcerers or the Sith, if you will. They had wielded great magical powers. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, you had the Jedi or the Jedi, which had, not as great of powers, but they were more, towards the white side of their idea of magic. In fact, I mean, a lot of people say, well, why are you talking about this? This has no effect whatsoever. It's just all tinfoil hat. Well, the thing about it is the Freemasons have a huge influence on our political system. And all of this stuff, I mean, if we're talking like 33rd degree, Order of the Illuminati, Scottish Rite Freemasons, hell, they could probably do a better job of explaining this stuff than I can.
John writes, actually, hopefully you didn't mind this information being read again. You did post it on a recorded live stream on a Google platform. But John Rice said, I think that he was a 32 or 33 degree Freemason.
Interesting. I just want to ask real quick, and I would love to get a response in the chat if he's still here. I don't know what your opinion is on Manly P. Hall, but most of the stuff that research I've done in regards to Freemasonry and secret societies and like the different ancient mystery schools were based upon Manly P. Hall. I just want to, let you guys know that's where I've been getting my information. Not specifically to the whole Dejeti thing. That's somewhere else. But yeah, that's, and you can see this in modern day society as well. Like a lot of the stuff, it seems older than it actually is, if you know what I'm saying. It's all very strange. In fact, I was reading a finance textbook about, stock market trading. Cause everybody's into stock market trading nowadays with the whole, AMC GameStop thing. Everybody's dabbling in it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to download a book and figure out if I can learn some stuff. And on the first introductory chapter, the person that wrote the finance textbook just started talking about the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn and Kabbalah and literally like things of a mystic element and trying to apply that to finance. So for the people out there saying, oh, this is all tinfoil hat conspiracies. Well, just think about it this way. The most powerful individuals in society, more powerful than, all of us, higher, from a political standpoint, they know about this shit. And the average person has not been fully awakened to these ideas. But one last thing before, I just kind of want to finish the topic of the Institute of Noetic Science, because I think it is so incredibly interesting. And I think the perfect a perfect guest would be one of the scientists, because nobody ever wants to talk to them. They're being shunned by the mainstream media every single day.
I've seen it all over. I would love to have a scientist or someone of the like on the show.
Yeah, it'd definitely be an interesting conversation, that's for sure. But another experiment that they ran was in regards to, in Star Wars, they talk about how every single living entity possesses the force. Okay, that's what the ancient Egyptians believed in. You could equate this from a modern day like equivalent, is what they're talking about with force is consciousness. And some people, I would say, in fact, there's actually I want to do a poll real quick. How many people are watching? We got 47 people. Awesome.
Yeah.
So real quick in the chat, do any of you have an inner voice? Now, what I mean by inner voice is, so Plato and Socrates talked about the inner voice of being an inner monologue. So, for example, some people in their day-to-day life, they don't think in their head in terms of like language. They just do. Yeah, exactly, Chris. It's intuition, right? In fact, most of the time, I have like, especially in the shower, right? I have all these thoughts, and I'm like debating myself, and I'm talking to myself in my head. I know it sounds schizophrenic, but
no, not at all.
But I would make the, I think the vast majority of viewers watching, I think they have an inner voice, because the one thing, I'm sure everybody's aware of the NPC and normie meme. One of the new meme out is that NPCs don't actually hear an inner voice and don't have intuition. That's why they make terrible decisions. Yes, exactly. It's Plato's Damien or demon. Some people think it's like some sort of demon. In fact, there's a story of Napoleon.
Jiminy Cricket.
He had this Napoleon had like some sort of like spiritual entity or something of that nature. I mean, I don't know about it, honestly. Like, come on, it's a little bit out there, not gonna lie. But
I don't know. Why would it be out there?
Well, that's actually a good question, because if you were to, have you guys heard of, there's this musician by the name of, what was his name? He was an artist. He was a music artist, Bob Dylan. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Bob Dylan, in a 60-minute interview, said, when asked like, what kind of sacrifices did you make with, become a great big artist in Hollywood? And so Bob Dylan thinks about it for a moment and said, he basically says he had to make a Faustian bargain. He said he made a deal with the god of this world, the illuminated one. If you know, you know. And so that's where he is. And that's the reason why he is where he is today. Again, I don't know, maybe it's all tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, but so many things line up to where it's like, it's all one big, it's all just one big coincidence, right, guys? Wink, wink.
Yeah, I mean, I get it that some things line up, and certain events make them look like that. And if you look at something with like that in mind, it's always going to look like that. I'm not saying that you're doing that, but
right,
like we have to look at every single thing that we can, open-minded, being willing to change a stance or an opinion, and think outside of the traditional realm.
Exactly. And you can't think about it from one perspective either, right? So, I like to bring in the scientific, mainstream scientific perspective. A lot of people don't like evolution. I like to bring in that perspective because evolution is still like, in my opinion, okay, this might be a little bit controversial. I think it's still a good idea to try to analyze certain human biological functions and how people interact in the world, and why, things are the way they are when it comes to like, human interaction, for example, is a good application. And there's also, when you talk about like consciousness and all this, I mean, you can think about it from a religious perspective, but you can also think about it from a scientific perspective. And there are more and more people thinking about it from a scientific perspective. And
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I would, yeah, I appreciate that. Sorry, getting distracted with comments.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I know.
But
I saw something I wanted to hit on. I may have lost it. Well, so what I believe is that everything is energy, right? everything is vibrations and energy. Like the delivery of my speech is a particular type of energy, right? The way I'm sitting in the chair is a particular type of energy. When a person walks in the room, it's a particular, like literally everything is energy. The lamp on my desk is energy. Well, and not just because it's plugged in. So honestly, with the shit that's happened over the last 15 months, nothing would surprise me. If my lamp, sprouted 2 legs and walked off my table and ran out of the room, like the TV from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, like I would be like, well, okay, that's not surprising. So.
Yeah, 100%. I think everybody's starting to have this sort of open-minded, you talk exactly. We are all, if you want to think about it from a purely scientific perspective, we are all vibrations. That is 100% true. If you're going to bring in the idea of string theory, which
for Thirsty Cole, feet are energy. Yeah, and so energy can be created. Energy can be transferred. Energy can be increased and reduced, and like that's it, right? Like everything that we do is the exchange of energy to one degree or another.
Exactly. And we've, for science has been held back for so long with this materialistic idea of consciousness, because most scientists, if you ask them, is there anything special about consciousness? They'll be just like, well, all the neurons are made of matter and atoms, and, that's basically it. But then you have the idea of like, a rock does not influence the quantum realm, yet consciousness affects the quantum realm. There's got to be something greater, a greater dimension, right? Some people say, spiritual, there's a physical dimension, there's a spiritual. I like to use the term, extra dimension, because it's more, scientific, and, average person is not going to, make you put on the tinfoil hat. But yeah, there's a lot to, damn, we're like 2 hours into this. It's currently, I think, 12 p.m. on the eastern side of the United States.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to wrap it up. I think, one thing I will say though, is kind of getting back to what we were talking about, at the beginning of the stream in regards to the ATF and kind of implying the future of the United States as a whole. I think we need to have the mindset of not being completely demoralized and having a bit of hope in our minds that something better is going to come forward.
Yeah.
Because, there's a saying, it's interesting because Mark Twain once said that history does not repeat itself, but it most certainly rhymes. And you can see that with the American Revolution, what's happening today. So think, for example, during the American Revolution, who were the individuals in America that did not support our ancestors that fought to distance themselves from the Rothschild-controlled crown and the monarchy of England? It was the elites. It was the the merchants that made millions and billions of dollars of today, equivalent in today's money, selling to the British. In the same way today, the people that are going against the ideals that we are fighting for, they are the corporations and the CEOs that make all of their money off of selling to, basically the New World Order, or what will be, for example, the World Economic Forum, things of that nature. So history definitely rhymes there. And I will say as well that, there's a saying, it's, the answer to 1984 is 1776 and all that. I think that's 100% correct, because if you think about it, if the United States is going to go down the path that other countries, specifically Syria, has gone down, and hell, if you talk to the Middle Eastern dudes, especially on Discord, they'll tell you straight up that they believe the United States is going down the same path that Syria and all the other countries have gone down.
Yeah.
It's very sad. But at the end of the day, when we fought in 1776, were we alone? No, we weren't at all. We were fighting the greatest military force in the history of the world, and we won. We weren't alone. We weren't just a bunch of hillbilly patriots that, that loved freedom and, all that. We actually had help. We had help from the French. They helped us out. Now,
so the aliens will help us keep our God-given liberties, is what you're saying. I'm joking.
Yeah, actually, it might be the freaking extra dimensionals, or it might be another power on this earth. Wink, wink.
I know that I know this much, that there has been something inside me, and I do talk to myself. I have literal conversations with myself, and I've known that something will go wrong within my lifetime, that I will need to depend on myself for water, food, shelter, and security. And over the last decade plus, I've been prepping for that, and I didn't know what it was or what it would look like, and I thought it could be a storm. Like I have no idea, right? And anyone that does sit there and say, okay, it's going to be an EMP because China is going to launch a missile, and you just need to do a little skiddly do, like, no one knows exactly what it's going to be, but I will say that I do believe that in my lifetime I'll experience something to that effect.
Some crazy shit.
Yeah, and I think we're headed in that direction. And I'm I don't know if I should go on record saying this, but fuck it. I'm willing to fight and die, screaming with a rifle.
It's either that or die in a gulag. Take your pick, buddy boy.
Yeah. For not only my God-given liberties, but for my daughters, for my families, for all of y'all's. And even if I don't necessarily agree with your beliefs, I would still fight and die for your right to support. And that's the thing that gets me, is that like through all of this, I see this like just slow burn, and this, people call it the death by 1,000 cuts, that we're headed in this direction. And it makes me terrified that they don't want me, they don't want our generation, because we're a bunch of rebellious military age males that'll fight. And then the only place that my mind can go is, well, yeah, they don't want me, they want my daughter, they want our children,
or our children's children.
Yeah,
because they didn't taste freedom, so they have no idea what they're fighting for. They can't fight it for anything.
And these people that are literally like planning they are like decades, they're generations ahead of us. I don't know. Well, I know, like, we all started this with the ATF talk, so and talking about the possibility of dying in conflict, whatever that may look like. I'll say this regarding the whole ATF thing: I have no intention of complying at all, and I'll keep every single pistol brace on every single item, because in my mind, that's compliance. I am already complying to your encroachment on my God-given liberties. Okay? And you're lucky that you got that. So I have no intention of complying, and I shouldn't urge others to, not comply or, be willing to fight. But I would say, it's a conversation that all of us need to have with ourselves. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an inner voice, you can have this conversation. But if you don't, then sucks to be you, buddy. You're out of the conversation.
Yeah, you may not be able to talk to yourself about it.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
Elaine,
the super chats, if you want to go over them, I think that
I may have
about
missed them.
sums it up. I mean,
Aletheia, is that how you pronounce it again?
yeah, I was gonna go under the name by which everybody knows if you know and you talk to me, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna go with something different. Aletheia, I believe, is one of the Greek goddesses of truth. I believe I could have also gone with Veritas as well, but Project Veritas, and don't really want to do
Nice.
that. But
Yeah, no, I feel you.
but real quick, one thing,
Yeah.
it's kind of a side note. Everybody talks about how, if they do this, I'm going to do that. And how if they go to the left, I'm going to go to the left. And like, think about it this way, when a cowboy is entering the stadium about to ride that bull, he doesn't have in his mind, if the bull does this, if the bull goes to the right, he's going to go to the right. If the bull goes to the left, if he goes up, he's going to go up as well. He lets destiny take the wheel. And I think everybody should learn from history and plant it in our subconscious. But at the end of the day, the only thing that's driving us is destiny itself.
True that. And there's an excellent quote that goes like this: everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
And you're going to get punched in the face.
And my, although it's a little bit crude, Mike Tyson said that, and his idea behind that is that, you go into a fight, you go into the ring, even if you go into a street fight, people always have this idea, like you said, like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to throw a right and then a left, and I'm going to duck and step back, and then I'm going to pick him up and slam him until you're going against the full energy of someone else's body. And you're like, oh shit, different plan, change plan, right? So I agree. Allow destiny to take the wheel. Or right now we could hold hands and sing Jesus Take the Wheel, but it's up to you.
Yeah, to each his own.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, man. Thank you. And
absolutely. It was definitely a very fun time. Yeah, it was a great experience, and first podcast, very interesting. Very interesting conversation.
A live stream, but
or live stream. Oh yeah, sorry. Big correction. A big difference, man. Oh no, I've been shown to be an idiot. I can't come on anymore.
Oh God. Well, I appreciate you. Coming on, taking your time to chat with us, and I got a lot of value from what you said, and it's definitely provoking thought and questions, and would love to have you back. And I appreciate you not screaming at me and calling me a fucking idiot on my stream.
Well, real quick before we close out the stream, I just have a few words to say before. No, okay, never mind.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now
that was interesting, but
yeah, I know. It's passion, right? Like,
passion takes control of us, and the heat of in battle. Yeah, let's say battle. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I have no problem saying I was just being corny.
Absolutely.
Hey,
real quick, thank you for everybody in the chat for taking the time to watch the entire live stream and participating. Yeah, it's great to see people out there that actually care about the truth and trying to learn about certain things. It's definitely a very good thing to see.
Oh yeah. Appreciate you guys. And lastly, sorry, I keep dragging this out. I haven't been the best about doing this, but we do this. Typically, we give our guests the honor of naming the live stream. So you're more than welcome to name it, brother. It's yours.
So I think it should be named. Ooh, this is I didn't think about this one. I'm gonna go right off the cuff and say, is the world a giant conspiracy? I don't know. Something of that. You're gonna have to help me with this. I don't know. Is the world a conspiracy? Is the awakening something of that nature?
The awakening could be good. I've never like guided someone. As a matter of fact, usually the first thing out of their mouth is what we just name it. So like when Cody Wilson was on and we were like, "Hey, you get to name it," he was like, "Shit, fuck." We were like, "All right, shit, fuck, you got it," and we literally named the episode "Shit, fuck." But I'll guide a bit, and I'll say that one of the more powerful things that you said was regarding destiny. So I think we should have something regarding destiny.
I disagree, sir. You are completely wrong. That is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my life. It should be
actually,
man yells at another man for 2 hours.
So this man yells at another man for 2 hours. This says the Lord will provide.
Yeah,
So,
good enough.
There you go. Sorry, someone was saying something. Yeah. Okay. So what's the name?
The name is. Oh my God. Actually, I need some help from the chat.
Smells like Patriot Spirit. Pass them that note. Awakening of the Whispering Eye. LMAO.
Does the world listen?
Ooh.
And I think I'm going to add Destiny. Does the world listen to the history of Destiny? I don't know.
Does the world listen
to Destiny? I don't know.
You are my destiny. Back to the Future. Wolverines. Oh man, you guys are awesome. Pistol braces on pistols. Wolverines again. Put it twice. Man yells at another man. Oh, you know what? We should put what's your destiny? You're a fucking idiot.
I like Destiny 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's like surely gonna get it taken down.
Oh, bro, it would be removed like literally the moment. Like the algo would take it down for me. Daddy talks to daddy about Destiny.
Oh my God.
You're good, GKT. You're good. I love you, brother. They live for now.
Wow, that's totally not implying something.
That's good. All right, roll the dice. I'll count it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's the name?
The name should be Will People Listen to Destiny?
Ooh, will people listen to Destiny? I like it. All right, y'all. Appreciate all y'all coming on. Mr. Aletheia, I appreciate barbecues and bullshit. Oh,
okay. You know what? I changed my name. It's Barbecues and Bullshit. Let's do it.
Oh man, you already picked the name. All right, that's cool. I can do barbecues and bullshit. Blue glue. Yeah, I don't know if y'all noticed, but I do have new lights behind me. Okay, so if you want to go red, if you want to go, green, maybe you want to slowly work your way to green, right? Maybe, or maybe you just want to hit that blue for that blue Kim Light life. So, damn, it's supposed to save the dark blue. Come on, there we go. All right, y'all, appreciate it. Just remember the whole purpose of this, even though sometimes we come on and talk about crazy stuff. Okay. The whole purpose of this is for you to gain your independence, for you to pull your mouth away from the nip of government who controls all. Your water, your food, your shelter, your security. Pose a question to yourself. What must I do to make sure that all 4 of those things are in 100% control by me? That's it. Love you guys. Stay safe, stay dangerous, and keep being just an awesome community. You guys are awesome. Love y'all.
Peace out.
Peace.